Imagine turning 63 and realizing that birthdays don't feel like milestones anymore. They just feel like reminders, whispers of years gone by that no one is counting except you. That morning was like any other. The porch swing groaning under my weight, black coffee in hand, a crossword puzzle half filled, and a stubborn patch of lawn refusing to stay green. It was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels more like absence than peace, the kind I had grown used to since Ezra stopped speaking to me 3 long years ago. And then came the knock. Just one single knock, not the impatient rap of the mailman or the hesitant tap of a neighbor, but one knock followed by footsteps retreating. I opened the door and saw it. A plain brown package, carefully taped, a thin blue ribbon tied neatly around the middle. I hadn't seen that handwriting in years, but I knew it instantly. Ezra wrote like an architect, every letter crisp, deliberate, precise. I whispered my own name when I saw it spelled out across the surface, Marlene Greaves, as if saying it aloud might somehow make it mean more. I didn't open it right away. Instead, I carried it inside and set it on the table while my coffee went cold. When I finally gave in, inside the paper was a white box, and inside that were cookies, dozens of them, each one delicately iced with flowers and stars, golden leaves dusted with sugar. Ezra had never baked a day in his life. There was only a small card taped to the lid. "Happy birthday, Mom. Let's start over." My throat tightened at the words, but I didn't eat them. Maybe it was pride, maybe fear, or maybe that quieter instinct that whispers when something isn't right. I saved one cookie in a container and gave the rest to Ruth, his mother-in-law, who had always been kind to me. That night, I stared at the empty table and told myself I felt lighter without them. But the next morning, Ezra called. His voice slipped through the line like nothing had happened. He asked if I'd eaten them. I told him I gave them to Ruth. The silence that followed was heavy. And then his words came sharp, laced with something dark. "They weren't for her, Mom. They were for you. Only you." He hung up before I could answer, leaving me with a pulse in my chest that felt too loud to ignore. Later that morning, the landline rang. It was Leah, his wife. Ruth was in the hospital, collapsed with symptoms no one could explain. She mentioned cookies, the ones I had given her. My stomach sank. That night, while cleaning, I found a small unlabeled bottle in my trash, a faint ring of white powder clinging to its inside walls. It wasn't mine. My hands shook as I compared it to the untouched cookie still waiting in my fridge. Was it meant for me, or for anyone who ate it? I called an old friend at a lab, and by the next day the truth was undeniable. Monk's hood, a rare, deadly toxin. Ruth was lucky to be alive. The gift Ezra had sent was never meant to heal old wounds. It was meant to cut them deeper, fatally so. I realized then that this wasn't estrangement. It was betrayal of the bloodline. My own son had sent me poison tied in ribbon, and for the first time in my life, I knew he had underestimated me. When Detective Reyes called, it felt like the last fragile thread holding denial together had snapped. Janelle had passed the toxicology results to the authorities. I could have pretended it wasn't true, but I didn't. I met with the detective in a quiet office, my voice trembling but steady enough to tell the story. He asked if I believed my son meant to harm me. I wanted to say no, but I couldn't. All the pieces pointed in one direction. I handed him the bottle and the cookie, sealing the fate of a case that would shatter what little was left of my family. That night I couldn't sleep. The house felt different, haunted not by creaks but by the sound of Ezra's voice echoing in my head. "You never do. Only you." The next day I drove to his house. He opened the door with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. I kept my recorder running in my coat pocket. We talked casually at first, but then I slipped his own words into the conversation. Words he shouldn't have known unless he had seen Ruth eat the stars. He froze. He denied knowing what Monk's hood was, but his body told me otherwise. He thought he could gaslight me, twist it back around. He thought I was still the mother who excused his strange obsessions, who softened when his temper went cold instead of hot. But I wasn't. I walked away with his slip on tape, enough to give the detective what he needed. Within days, Ezra was arrested, calm, collected, as if he had rehearsed it. They found more in his journals, plants, powders, instructions written under false names online. This wasn't his first attempt. It might not have been his last. I didn't go to the station. There was nothing left to say. I sat with Ruth when she woke, holding her hand while she searched my face for an explanation. I couldn't bring myself to speak. When she finally whispered that she was glad it hadn't been me, I felt both relief and shame, because it almost was. It should have been. But fate has a way of choosing for us. Weeks later, I stood in my kitchen with the evidence bag Detective Reyes had returned to me. Inside was the single cookie I had saved. I slid it into a fireproof box along with the birthday card. Not as a keepsake, but as a reminder. Betrayal doesn't always come from strangers. Sometimes it comes tied neatly with ribbon, in the handwriting you once loved to recognize, in the voice that once called you mom. Blood is not always family, and sometimes justice is the only redemption we can take back for ourselves. So if you're listening to this, remember this story is not just mine. It's a warning. Look closely at the things you are offered, and even closer at the people who offer them. Trust your instincts when something feels wrong, even if it breaks your heart to admit it. Because betrayal hidden in love can be the most dangerous poison of all. And if the story shook you, if it made you think of your own choices, your own blood, your own trust, then don't let it fade away. Share it, speak it, and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the fragile lines between love and danger, between betrayal and justice, between silence and survival.